Thank you for joining us on another episode of our West San Antonio Chamber pop-up. I am Christy Villanueva, president of the West San Antonio Chamber, and joining me today is Mr. Don Gleason, owner of Achieve New Heights. Thank you, Don, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. I appreciate what you guys are doing as you're communicating with your members about COVID-19 and what they can do, and you're staying engaged, and that's so exciting. I appreciate being a part of that.
Thank you. Well, it's from crisis comes resilience that you are starting a wonderful new series called Leading Through Crisis as part of your John Maxwell team focus. So please tell us more about it. I'm really interested to know what it is that this series covers.
Oh, you bet. So what it really comes down to is leaders lead through crisis. And it's time for each of us in our organizations, in our companies, in our nonprofits, to be thinking about how we can be the leaders that we need to lead. John Maxwell just did a series Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and I believe they said it was listened to, watched by about 1 million people over the first 3 days. So it really reached out to a lot of people. So it's a very key topic. I think a lot of people right now, we've seen a lot of videos on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram talking about how to deal with the stress of the situation. I mean, we have a lot of people who are unemployed. We have a lot of people who are furloughed. Hopefully they can go back to their company when the economy picks back up. We have a lot of people working remotely. We have kids that are out of school. Some students are doing remote. Some parents are homeschooling them, and some people are unfortunately probably watching Netflix and Disney Channel.
Yes.
And as parents are losing jobs, we're wondering what they're doing. And since this goes back to the piece that John was talking about, that leaders lead, and leadership is all about influence. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So there's several different quotes there that he uses all the time. So when everything rises and falls on leadership, we need to be thinking about how we are leading in our organizations. So he did a series this week that talked about how to lead through crisis. And there's a couple key points we can talk about today. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a series over probably starting early next week. And I want to invite people to come in and join me. There's plenty of people who are talking about, how to work remotely, how to be the mental mindset of working remotely, all of those things. I want to think about the next step. It's how, when we're starting to think about the new normal that's going to exist coming forward, because it is going to be different. Every time you go through a crisis, the normal coming out of this is not going to be the same as the one we went in with. So we need to be thinking about what skill sets, what mindset changes do we have to make so that we're ready for that new situation. Perfect example they talk about is school. We're going to have a lot more probably distance education, remote learning. It's been something that's been growing, but this is going to show that we have the capability. So how can we be ready for that? And we need to think about that in each of our industries, each of our markets, each of our companies, about what's going to change and how we can be ready for that. And you can't wait until the end. You have to be starting to do that now. You have to be starting to prepare now. So what are we going to do during this period of the next 3, 4, 6 weeks, 3 months to be ready for that? So that's the basic gist of it.
Well, that's what's interesting. So in this series, you're taking us through kind of a step-by-step process, and then we're all interacting with each other. So we're going to get a chance to meet new people. This is the great way to network now moving forward, at least for a little while.
That's right. Because every time we do something like this, it's not just about one person bringing information. It's about the group. It's about the community sharing and talking into what they're doing and what they're thinking about. Because we are so much better together than anyone is by themselves.
Wonderful. And anyone can join the group, whether you're in management or a business owner?
Yes, anybody can join. I'd love to have a lot of that different perspectives coming together.
You do a great job when you're teaching our members and our friends of the chamber, as you take us through a variety of scenarios, and you're always mirroring real life with what is going on in our community and what the teachings are of John Maxwell. So I think this is a wonderful thing that you've started. Um,
Mhm.
Also, what about some of the examples? I know you mentioned working remotely, learning about working remotely. So this is yet a new level to time management because the dog wants them, or the cat just sat on their computer, or the kids need something. So there are
Mhm.
even more critical distractions than we ever had before.
We do. We're going to talk a couple of key things as we get into what you just talked about. One, crises are common. They really are. We like to think that, wow, nothing like this has ever happened before. And probably true, we've never had a pandemic like this before. But you go back about 100 years and millions of people died. We've had a lot of crisis throughout the 20th century into the early 20th century. You think about the crisis we had just 12 years ago that led into the recession of 07, 08, 09. And in the midst of that, it felt like this was nothing that we've ever had before. The Great Depression of 29 to 32. But every one of these is, I hate to say it, it's common. It feels really bad when we're in the middle of it. None of us like to see our 401k become a 301k, as they say, or a 201k. It was neat to see the market respond in the last couple of days, and I have not looked to see where it's at today, but I think it was going back up a little bit more. But it'll probably go back down a little bit. So every one of these is a common situation. And to leaders, because we're in an organization and we're trying to drive our organization to a certain place, this becomes a distraction. This is another distraction toward our overall goal. Now, we certainly need to step back and take the actions to do the things that we're doing right now, which is try to protect the business, try to protect the people. People first, business second. As much as we can try to keep people employed, keep them doing something. I remember a story where one company said we got all the team members together, because I like the word team member better than employees. We got all the team members together and they agreed we will all sacrifice so that one person doesn't have to, or two people don't have to take the brunt of losing their job. So they went from a 5-day week to a 4-day week, or to a 3-day week, to what the business could afford to keep money coming in for everybody. So having those kind of communication is important. Leaders lead, and the leaders need to bring the community together, their team together, and figure out how they can keep people as number one and keep the business going forward. So we got to avoid things like what you were talking, mind wandering is a distraction. I start thinking about, away from the plan I'm trying to get to what's happening in the midst of the crisis. I have to stay away from negative thinking, feeling that everything is going wrong. It is so important in the, what do they call them, the things that people are talking about with how to deal with a crisis. The more we watch TV, the more we listen to radio, the more we listen to, read the paper and listen to the news, all of those things, it just sounds like the whole world is coming apart. But there are so many positives of things that are happening. I mean, even Congress got together, made an agreement in the White House. As soon as they can get that to him, he's going to sign it. That's $2 trillion that's going to be invested into us and into the economy. So there are things that are positive that are going to happen. Look at what's happening in China. No new cases, no new deaths for quite a while. So we're just behind that wave, and we have positive feelings we're going to come out of it. So a crisis is a distraction away from where you want to be, but you have to take those actions to be able to get yourself back out of it. So we're going to talk some about that. What is a crisis? Crises are common. What happens inside the crisis? And a crisis reveals what's really inside of us. A lot of people think, and even John Maxwell says, defining moments define your leadership. It's in his book, Leadership Gold. But what it really does is it reveals who we are. If we're a negative person, we're going to get a lot more negative in a crisis. If we're a positive person, we're going to get a lot more positive in a crisis, and we're going to bring that forward. So I think you see the great leaders in a crisis who have stepped forward. It really just revealed who they were.
Yes.
Think about Eisenhower in World War II. Think about even General Schwarzkopf in the Desert Storm. It was who they were. It was who they've been molded and developed to be, and it came at the right time to be able to reveal itself. So those are a couple of things that are kind of the beginning pieces that are going to be really exciting for us to talk about.
Well, that's wonderful. And so I'm sure during and after the series, the attendees will have a chance to work on a few of the takeaways, and will they have some sort of, not necessarily a notebook, but a question and answer session so they can discover more about themselves as they work through the series with you?
We actually have mastermind guides with questions, and more coming out to be able to help us facilitate exactly that. So each of the different parts that John talked through, there'll be questions that we can walk through together. We can understand a crisis. We can understand distractions. We can understand how those distractions are impacting us and how we can help overcome them. We can listen to other people's ideas and figure out how to work through that. So yes, we'll definitely have mastermind to walk us through the material.
Well, I love that, Don, and I'm so glad we had a chance to talk and record this interview, even with all the interesting things going on via video chat. But so remind us where we can find you. So if someone is interested in this, they're watching, how do they get a hold of you? Either email, website, or phone?
Correct. So don.gleason@achievenewheights.com or telephone number 210-216-0965. And I'll be posting this up on Eventbrite and probably Meetup, as well as my website here in the very near future. In fact, we just did a seminar for the West Chamber this morning, so
yes,
I was focusing yesterday and today on that, and this will be my next piece, is to set this up so that we can bring this forward next week to our members.
Wonderful. And then we will post the video, and when we post it on Facebook and some of our other platforms, we will also make sure to include your information, your phone number, your email, and the link on how to register for this class. So thank you so much. Perfect. Again. And we will be in touch very soon, actually, for our next class in another month or so. And until then, stay well. And we have to say, wash
you
hands often.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate what you guys are doing, and appreciate being a part of this. We just want to bring more value to our community and help us get ready for the new normal that's going to emerge.
Absolutely. We're here to support the community. Thank you so much, Don, and we will talk to you very soon.